Hello and welcome to 33 Mile Garage. I'm Mike.
I'm Kate, and today we're going to be diagnosing brake light issues.
And you're going to be surprised at what the issue was. We're going to go through from start to finish. Brake light switch, fuses, wiring. Cover a lot to do with the wiring because this one was a little bit on the complicated side on why it wasn't working. Kalen's hitting the brake pedal right now and we got nothing. So turn the lights on, turn the hazards on, turn signals. Yeah, so everything's working correctly except for the brake lights. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the fuse. Right up and right out, it just sits on those pins. So on the bottom row, fuse 16 is for the stoplights. So we're gonna pull him out and check him. Got a multimeter. I'm just gonna turn your multimeter onto continuity. And then we're gonna change this. We're gonna flip this over to continuity. And then you can see here there's a 1 displayed. You touch together, it should go to 0. And my meter has an audible sound. I think most do for continuity. So, and then we're just going to touch that on either lead of the fuse, and we can tell the fuse is good. So you can also do a visual check and look at the fuse, but definitely always rely for sure on a continuity test and not a visual test of the fuse. Just so we can get some clearance so you can see what's going on underneath the dash, we're going to get at the brake light switch. So there's a Phillips screw in the bottom side of here. I just pulled that down and then worked it around the tilt wheel. So I got that out of there. There's also, we're going to pull this panel down just to give us some more room. There's 2 Phillips head screws here and 1 down here on the opposite side. Remove those, and there's just a couple clips. So you just want to pull those clips out right out of there. The one thing you got to watch is your OBD2 cord. You just want to be careful with that if you want to leave it plugged in or move it out of the way. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to check the brake switch. We're going to check for 12 volts on that switch, so we're going to turn the multimeter back on again. We are going to switch the plug back over to AC/DC, and then we're going to switch to we have a 20 amp fuse, so we're going to switch their DC volts to 20 amps to make sure that we're getting power to the brake light switch. So this blue wire up here with the yellow stripe, the key off in the non-running position, this wire should be hot. This top right hand corner of the plug, and the way that you can orientate the plug is where the clip is for to retain the plug. That's going to be the top right hand corner. So I've got the multimeter grounded out and we've got no power going to that plug. So that is interesting. That's a major problem. Number 16, which is our stoplights. So I'm going to pull fuse number 16 out. So 16 is going to have power with ignition off. It doesn't matter. This is going to be power all the time. So we've already checked the fuse. Fuse is out. So the way the fuse works is the top side of the fuse is hot all the time, and then it's going to run through to the bottom side of the fuse. So to complete the circuit. So my test lead is a little bit big. I don't want to go in there and start opening up the ports for the fuse. So I just got a little jumper wire that I'm going to put in here. If you're going to use a jumper wire like this, what you want to do is make sure that you don't touch both ends of it, and also make sure that your ground stays on while you're doing this test. So my multimeter is back to being grounded. All right, so I'm going to put my lead wire into the top, and we got nothing. We don't have 12 volts. So the next thing I want to do, just to verify that I have the multimeter hooked up and my ground is good, I'm going to pull the fuse right next door to it. And this one is for the washer, or the wiper washers. So we're going to pull this 30 amp out, and we're just going to test just to make sure.
And we're going to the left one.
So the top should be hot. We'll put our jumper wire in, and just to make sure we're getting 12 volts to the top, being very careful. Yep, so there we go, 12 volts to the top. So we know that we're getting power to the fuse box, but we're not getting power to the top side of fuse 16, which is our stop lamp. What I want to do is I want to get power to the brake lights to make sure that circuit's working correctly. Is put power to the opposite side of the fuse. I know that we're not getting power to the top side where the power should be coming in. So I'm going to put power to the back side of here. That's going to put power down to the switch and then all the way down to the brake lights. To get power back to the back side of the fuse, what I've done is I split a wire and then crimped a couple leads onto it and then fused the wire. What I don't want to do is I don't want to put 12 volts hot to that back side of the fuse if there's a short or anything on the rear of the car, you know, it's going to cause a problem, and I don't want to screw anything up. So what I did is just crimped a couple leads onto a fuse, and that was pretty much it. I'm going to put a little bit of black tape because the leads are pretty close together. Oh, focus there. You can see the leads are pretty close together, so I'll put a little black tape between there to make sure the leads don't touch together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch that 12 volt, and then I'm going to put that on the back side of the fuse, hit the brake pedal, and make sure the brake is working correctly. And then I can isolate my problems to the front of the car from that point on. So now when I hit the brakes, and because I'm a one-man operation here, I got to do this the hard way. So you can see when I hit the brakes, you can see that it's glowing against the workbench in the back. So everything's working correctly from the power distribution box back. We're going to check the fuses under the hood and make sure that we're getting power from there, and then we're going to isolate where our problem is, why we're not getting power to the fuse box here. And check the fuse that feeds the blue wire into the back side of the fuse box. So looking inside the fuse box, FBS2 is this guy right here, 50 amp fuse. So in the fuse box, it's going to be this dude right here. So we're going to pull him out and do a continuity test up so I can pull it out with my hand now. So we've got this 50 amp fuse. We're going to just do a quick continuity test to make sure this fuse is good. All right, we got our multimeter set up to check continuity. Got our 50 amp fuse. Put the ground in there. And yep. So our fuse is good. Is check to make sure that we're getting 12 volts to the leads. So the inside lead should be dead, and the outside lead should have 12 volts. So we got this lead right here will be hot leaving the car. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start tracking that wire down, that thick blue wire down through the fender well and inside the car, and find out where that problem is, because there's obviously a broken connection somewhere. So when we removed the wheel liner, I realized that there was a hole rubbed through the top side of the wheel liner. And coincidentally, if you look at the top side of the wheel well, let me slide this in here so you can see. You can see that the tire had worn right through the bottom side of this wire loom. And coincidentally, at the bottom side of this wire loom, thick blue wire, this is the guy that's giving us problems. So what happened is the coating wore through, and you can see all the corrosion inside of the wire, but it wore probably 90% of the wire through and corroded the rest of it. So it's not getting power through this wire. This one goes directly into the back side of the fuse box, which powers the taillights. So this is why the taillights aren't working. So a pretty easy fix. What I'll do is I'll fix the wire, shrink wrap it. All right, long-term fix for this, what we're gonna have to do is, I like to adjust the coilovers, but these coilovers are not going to be adjusted. They're pretty much rusted in place. And one of them's been leaking for a little bit now. So in order to get this to stop rubbing, this car, it's been lowered a lot. So what we're going to do is have to pick the ride height up a little bit. So just a lesson, a warning to everyone, hey, if you're going to lower your car, really watch to make sure that this top side, you know, when you turn the steering wheel, that you're not touching on any of this upper portion, because that wire loom runs right through the whole top side of that fender well. So you lower your car, your tire starts hitting that, and it's going to rub through and cause either your brake lights or who knows what else you're going to rub through, create a short, you know, probably short out, start a fire, burn down your car. You know, that's bad news. Repairs completed, shrink wrapped everything, heat wrapped it, and then taped it all back up. We're also going to replace the wheel liner. We want to make sure that there's no water going back up in there and starting to get through the tape, you know, because the tape's not as good as the seal was originally. You can see where it was rubbing right there, touching the underbody a little bit, and then right there, you can see the wire loom underneath there where it rubbed right through. So I got that fixed, but we're gonna get a new wheel liner, and then we're gonna lift the car about an inch to make sure that doesn't happen again. All right, there we go. Brake lights are working again. I'm Mike, and thanks for watching 33 Mile Garage.